name's Corby Naylor, and I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer in 2019, June 26th. And it was a really difficult time for sure. I definitely had some moments of despair and fear and a lot of worry. But I remember a very specific moment where I saw a quote that said, "You're going through what you're going through now because it's going to be part of someone else's survival guide." And so I remember seeing uh, that quote and like all of a sudden realizing like this is why this is part of my story, because there's a lot of wondering why it's happening to you, what you did wrong that you could have fixed and not had it happen. And I think when I saw that quote written down, I called my mom. I was really excited, and I just told her, I think I know why this is happening to me. And I said, because I know that I think this is being given to me, because I'm strong enough to take it and use it to serve others in the future. And so after I finished treatment, I started writing the initials of everybody that I had walked through a cancer diagnosis with, on this pair of pink boxing gloves that a friend got me during my treatment. And it's up to 48 people now. So in my 5 years since then, since I saw that quote, it's up to 48 people that I've gotten to walk through their story in one way or another with. And so I feel like, to me, and it sounds weird to say, people always think it's odd when I say it, but if I could have gone back and not gotten cancer, I would not choose that. It's certainly been something that had its challenges and was really difficult, but it's part of my story for sure. And I've started to really look at it as a gift that was given to me, so that I could serve other people with it. And I really believe that in my heart, that it was something that was meant to be. And it's just part of my identity, certainly not my whole identity, but part of it. So I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. I actually live down the street from City of Hope. And so I did all of my treatment there. I actually started off with a different provider, and I loved my oncologist, but the breast surgeon, who I also loved, they weren't communicating with each other. And what I was finding was I was having some frustration, feeling like, they were kind of getting in disagreements over whether I should have surgery first or chemo first. And it was adding stress to something that was already a really hard part of my story. So what I found was that, I was kind of having to run to one place to go get imaging done. And then I was having to go somewhere else for my chemo. And then I was going somewhere else for my surgery visits. And it just it felt very disconnected to me. And I felt like the right hand wasn't talking to the left. And I was afraid that something was going to end up getting missed. And so when I went to visit City of Hope, at the time was Cancer Treatment Centers of America, I had a friend refer me there. And when I went in there, it felt very different. Like everyone was on the same team. I was the focus. I was absolutely treated like a human. The doctors knew my kids' names, and they asked me about, work and my kids and my family. And it just felt much more like I was part of a team that was about me, and a little bit less like a clinical, sterile, environment. So I sing the praises of all of the providers I've had at City of Hope. I told my oncologist, Dr. Lynch, when I rang the bell, that, I often picture like what it must be like for her in the morning. Can't even say it. Getting up and like drinking her coffee and getting her kids ready for school, and then going to work and being this like hero that is saving lives and curing cancer, like actually, going out and curing cancer every day. And it's just such a beautiful, admirable thing. And the way that she, all my doctors there, Dr. Prati, all of them, Dr. Kachami, Dr. Lynch, they come with this beautiful blend of balancing the humanity of patients and bedside manner and compassion, with having this incredible technical expertise, medical expertise, and and research and knowledge. So I always felt like they were the smartest people on my team, and also the most compassionate, like kind of alongside me on my team as well. So I had gone to other places where it felt like they had a lot of research behind them, and they knew a lot of things, and they were cutting edge, but it felt very clinical and sterile. And I didn't feel like a person that, they weren't going to know my kids' names. And it just feels different when you're going through something that hard, when you feel like the people that are treating you are just as invested as in your outcome as you are. So special place. I was diagnosed with a BRCA mutation after I was diagnosed with cancer. They did some genetic testing and found that I have the BRCA2 gene, which my father also has, and he's never had cancer. He's 77 years old. But his mother did die of ovarian cancer really young, and so they just didn't know that there was any kind of a genetic predisposition. So people ask me a lot, my children will be 50%, likelihood of having the BRCA mutation as well. Um, People always ask me that, like, do you feel, worried about that or bad about that? And honestly, I just look at it as, I feel like now that I know I have this mutation, City of Hope takes such good care of me, all the scans, all the ultrasounds, every preventative measure that can be put in place to make sure that I don't have to go through this again and a diagnosis again, is there. And so I feel so safe and comfortable in knowing that I just have that level of coverage around me. I did end up doing a double mastectomy with reconstruction. I also did chemo. So I did chemotherapy first and then surgery second. I did have a really great outcome from my treatment and ended up with a pathological complete response, which means that my chance of recurrence was significantly less than it would have been otherwise. I also had a full hysterectomy and oophorectomy, so that I don't have to worry about ovarian cancer down the road. So it's a lot of pieces, certainly, and it's a big lift emotionally. But I also feel like I just get to have this light that my grandmother didn't have, right? Like I just live in a time where the medical knowledge and the advancements and the technology is so great that for my children, I don't worry that it's going to be a situation like I had. I really truly believe that with the advancements that medicine's making, the hope right up there, that by the time it's a factor for my kids, they're going to have completely different treatment, plans. Even the treatment that people have for triple negative breast cancer has changed in the 5 years since I went through treatment. And so it's growing so exponentially that I feel confident in the practitioners and the researchers and the support that's behind breast cancer, in the month of October. You see it everywhere. That by the time it's a factor for my children, I wholeheartedly believe that it will, if not be cured, that they're going to have incredible preventative measures in place. And because we will know that they're BRCA positive, they're going to have, everything they need to make sure that they find it before it's a problem. So I feel confident in that. I also know that you can't take one gene away and not change the rest of them. And so I told my parents when they were obviously super stressed out to find out that they had passed that genetic on to me, I told them, you can't take away that part of me without taking my blue eyes or my blonde hair, my personality. It's all part of me, and I wouldn't change any of it. So I wouldn't change that for my kids, but I feel empowered that they get to go into, the potential that they may have the same genetic mutation with the light and the power of medical technology behind them. So I try to look at it that way. So I remember one specific moment, which was really kind of early on in my treatment, because I know I didn't have any hair. I was standing out front in my yard, and I have these trees that are out in my front yard. I don't know if you'll be able to see. Yeah. So those trees, I was just standing in my front yard. And one of the things about cancer treatment that is unexpected, I guess, I shouldn't be unexpected for me. I know I have a lot of good people in my life, but the positivity of the people in your life, all the love that you've poured out to others over time, I think of it as it all comes back so exponentially big to you in such a focused and potent and powerful way with that diagnosis. I early on decided, and I know different people deal with diagnosis and treatment in different ways. Some people like to keep it quiet, make it private. I decided very, very early on. Another quote that I saw was, that we all have the choice of whether we want to become a victim or a warrior. And so I really took that to heart, like that with adversity, with obstacles, we all have the choice in whether we're going to be the heroine of our life or the victim of it. And so I chose to really focus my intention on being very vulnerable with everyone I know, not just a select few people. I made it a very public story. I did a lot of blogging about my specific adversities that I was going through, difficulties, getting scared at night. I mean, I was very raw and very vulnerable about what I was feeling. And I found that I made it when I was willing to put my vulnerability out there and have the courage to do that. I was met with like the biggest army of support you can ever imagine. I had, our neighborhood lifting us up. We had my school family lifting us up, our Air Force family lifting us up, City of Hope family lifting us up. Just people came out of every aspect of our lives to surround us with love and strength and power. And it was just a really incredible feeling. I always thought of it when I would go to my chemo Tuesdays. I have these cowboy boots that my husband bought me that have a big pink ribbon on them. And I would get just totally dolled up, put my boots on, and I would take a few minutes before I left the house to do some like meditating of, kind of picturing the power of the medicine and the medical science behind it and the doctor's knowledge and the nurse's compassion and all the parts of my care. I would picture that. And then I would picture the power of the people in my life and then my own internal strength. And I would kind of breathe it all in together and like picture it like swirling around and just, I don't know how to explain it, but just flowing through my body and killing every bad cancer cell that was in it. And it's a really powerful vision. And I had so much of that. Felt like between all of the incredible care I was getting and the people that were loving me and lifting me up, and then my own belief and confidence and strength in my outcome, just really felt like it was going to be hard to fail. So, yeah. So the moment I was standing, I'm sorry, I digress. I was standing in the front yard. I was looking at the trees and I had this moment of like epiphany that the invisible air moves the trees. And I remember standing in my front yard, just like crying, watching the trees blow in the wind and just thinking like how incredible of a miracle it was that the invisible air moves the trees right in front of us. And there's just people walking by to work and riding bikes and walking their dogs and all the things that we stress about and we worry about and we complain about and we like in our day-to-day that we have the luxury of complaining about, I guess. Those things just are so insignificant when you stand there and watch the invisible air move the leaves on a tree, and so thankfully they're still right in my yard. So I see them often and I think about it every time I see them. I tell that story often of just the impact of going through something so substantial and life-changing. It really gives you a different perspective. It's a perspective I wish I could share with other people without them having to go through cancer. I wish they could know what I know without having to experience the hard things that came with that. But at the end of the day, like, again, that's another part of the blessing that my diagnosis was for me, is that I get to see everything through a different lens. I don't let things stress me out that used to stress me out. I value things. I find joy in things. I find beauty in things that maybe I walked past before. And now it's a little easier to have the lens and the light on all the good there is in the world and the good people and the, just the beauty of being alive. It's a really powerful thing to see. And it's sometimes a hard thing to see when we're just going through the motions of our day-to-day, jobs and lives and things like that. And so I feel like that was also part of a huge gift. So there have been a lot of moments between now and then. I remember knowing that at the 5-year mark, I had read the research, right? I was a chronic researcher during that time. And I had read the research. I know that triple negative if you're able to get to that 5 year mark, it's a significantly more survivable, um, outcome than before that. And the risk of recurrence is really high early on. But it decreases pretty exponentially from year 3 to 5. And then after that, it's almost not risk at all, And so, um, remember thinking about that 5 year mark and being like, oh, I just can't wait till that day that I can be at that and not have to worry about, all the things anymore. And then I realized that like at that point, and I remember thinking it sounded so far away. At that point, I'm going to have my oldest son will be in college and my middle son will be a senior in high school and my daughter will be driving. And I don't want to fast forward my life to that, So instead, I just focused on slowing down and really like finding the moments of joy because either way, either I wasn't going to make it to 5 years and I wanted to enjoy those moments, or I was going to make it and my kids would be grown and, and so I was like, I can't live my life in fast forward or, they always say that like worrying about the past creates depression, worrying about the future creates anxiety. And like the best thing you can do is hold yourself in the moments. And so many times, and I'm an adventurous person, my family, we like to do a lot of things, but I mean, since then I've taken my kids to get certified to scuba dive in the Dominican Republic. We've been to Europe. We hiked Havasupai, we took houseboats out on Lake Powell. We've done so many remarkable things since then. Took my daughter to Italy to play soccer with Italian soccer coaches and be trained by Italian coaches. And I mean, we've just done so many things that in the moments I really am able to like sink into and recognize the beauty in them because I know I would not have had them had I not found my cancer when I did. And so, so there's a lot of things, I mean, that I think I can't say there's one benchmark moment. I think there's probably a million benchmark moments since then because I'm able just to settle into the moment and be present because of the lens and the appreciation I have because of my diagnosis. So my biggest piece of advice is to let people in, let them be part of your story, let them be a part of your army. It's scary and it's hard to be vulnerable and it takes a lot of courage to open up such a difficult, terrifying and private part of your life. But what I found was, I was so worried about walking through the, grocery store and people looking at me weird because I was bald or, my kids being embarrassed of having me at their games or whatever that might be. And what I found was that, if you're looking down and feeling ashamed and, kind of removing yourself from people, then that may be a response that you get out of respect for what the vibe they're getting from you. But what I found is that when you hold your head up and you smile at people and you look them in the eye and you pour out strength and courage and hope, you're met with the exact same things. You're met with solidarity and strength and support and love. And so I think having the courage to be vulnerable and to ask for help and to ask for people, I never went through any of these things alone. I got to watch the beautiful build right next to the scary, and I was surrounded in chemo with my team, my people would like take turns signing up to go to chemo with me. And my whole school would come every Tuesday on chemo day and my staff would fill my yard up with pink pumpkins or, flamingos or a wreath with ribbons from every kid in my school writing me letters of love. My husband's squadron did meals for us for like 6 months. I mean, we just had so many people picking us up that it may be terrifying, but it's never lonely, And so if you don't take that step to let people in, for me, it'd be a way harder fight. So.